In the flickering candlelight of a Virginia plantation bedroom, a young girl presses a blade into ancient wood, carving names that echo like forbidden prayers. Names of children, innocent souls who toiled under the sun, only to vanish at the stroke of 12, swallowed by shadows no ledger could explain. What divine wrath or paternal sin erased them from the earth? Tonight, we descend into the heart of this unholy mystery, where guilt stains deeper than blood. Fade in on the sprawling Hartley plantation under a blood-orange dawn, the kind that promises both bounty and curse. The camera sweeps low over dew-kissed tobacco fields, where mist clings to the leaves like reluctant spirits. In the distance, the main house looms, white columns cracked with age, windows like watchful eyes reflecting the first rays of sun. The air hums with the low chorus of waking insects, the distant clank of iron chains, and the muffled sobs of a world built on broken backs. This is Tidewater, Virginia, 1851, where the soil is rich with history and heavy with secrets, a land where the Bible's tales of bondage and exodus feel not like ancient scripture, but like yesterday's ledger entries. Our story begins not with the grand sweep of empires or the thunder of revolutions, but with a single girl, Virginia Hartley, standing alone in her upstairs bedroom. She's 17 now, tall and slender, with hair the color of autumn wheat tied back in a simple ribbon. Her eyes, deep set in stormy gray, hold the weight of unspoken questions. The room is modest for a planter's daughter, a four-poster bed draped in faded muslin, a washstand with a porcelain basin chipped at the edges, and walls papered in a pattern of wilting roses that seem to bleed into the wood beneath. But it's the wooden beam above her window that draws the eye, a scarred testament, etched with 43 names, each groove a silent scream against oblivion. Virginia didn't learn numbers through rote schoolroom chants or the clink of market coins. No, her arithmetic was forged in loss, tallied in whispers under the cover of night. As a child of 7, she first felt the chill of absence. Picture it, the kitchen gardens bathed in early morning light, or enslaved children bent over rows of beans and squash, their small hands calloused but deft. The air thick with the scent of turned earth, fresh herbs, and the faint, acrid tang of tobacco curing in the barns nearby. Virginia, in her starched pinafore, would sneak away from her mother's embroidery lessons to join them. There was Ruth, a girl of 11 with skin like polished mahogany and eyes that sparkled with mischief. Ruth's smile could cut through the morning fog, quick and bright as a firefly. She taught Virginia to braid sweetgrass into intricate patterns, loops for luck, twists for secrets, knots for promises unbroken. They met at dawn, when the world was still soft and forgiving. The dew clung to everything, turning the leaves into jeweled tapestries underfoot. Ruth's voice was a melody, low and rhythmic, as she guided Virginia's fingers, like this, Missy, gentle now, or it'll snap like a brittle bone. To young Virginia, it was magic, pure and untainted, a brief escape from the rigid order of her father's domain. But one Tuesday in June, the sun rose without Ruth. Virginia waited by their spot, a gnarled oak at the garden's edge, watching the light climb, burning away the mist. Hours passed. The heat built, pressing down like a judgmental hand. Ruth's absence was a void, a hole in the fabric of the day. She asked Ruth's mother first, a woman named Eliza whose back was bowed from years of labor, her hands gnarled like tree roots. Eliza turned away sharply, her faded calico skirt swirling in the dust, muttering something about the Lord's will under her breath. The cook, a stout woman with arms like hams and a face etched with quiet endurance, averted her eyes and whispered, "Child's been sent on, miss. Best not to pry." That evening, at the supper table, polished mahogany groaning under platters of ham, cornbread, and stewed greens, Virginia couldn't hold it in. The candles flickered, casting long shadows that danced like demons on the walls. Her father, Thomas Hartley, was mid-sentence about fluctuating tobacco prices, his voice a monotone drone of commerce and control. "Father," Virginia interrupted, her voice small but steady, "where did Ruth go?" The room fell silent, the only sound the distant hoot of an owl outside, a harbinger of ill omens. Thomas looked up, his face a mask of mild annoyance, his thinning brown hair slicked back, his squint deepening in the candlelight. "Children should not interrupt their elders, Virginia. Ruth has been sold to a family in Tennessee. That is all you need to know." His tone was final, like the slam of a ledger closing. But Virginia knew better. Just 2 days prior, she'd slipped into his study, a room heavy with the smell of pipe tobacco and aged leather, to deliver his afternoon tea. The brown ledger lay open on his desk, unlocked in a rare moment of carelessness. Her eyes had darted to Ruth's entry, name in precise script, age 11, no mark in the sold to column. Just one word, removed. It sat there like a curse, stark and unexplained. That night, under a sliver of moon that pierced her curtains like a silver blade, Virginia acted. She took her mother's sewing scissors, cold metal biting into her palm, and climbed onto her bed. The beam above the window was rough-hewn oak, solid as the plantation's foundations. With trembling hands, she carved, RUTH. Each letter a prayer, a defiance against forgetting. Why? She couldn't say. Perhaps it was the Bible stories her mother read by firelight, tales of names inscribed in the book of life, of souls not to be erased. Or maybe it was simpler, in a world where humans were tallied like livestock, someone had to bear witness. That first name glowed in the moonlight, a spectral reminder. Over the next decade, 42 more joined it, a litany of the lost, Elijah, who sang hymns like an angel, Sarah, with her laughter like bubbling springs, Jacob, whose quick wit masked a deeper sorrow. Each carving deepened the groove in the wood and in Virginia's soul. Pause here, let the narration breathe. Imagine the camera lingering on those etched names, close up, the wood fibers splintered like fractured faith. The soundtrack swells with subtle strings, evoking a sense of building dread, a spiritual unease. For this isn't just a tale of disappearance, it's a meditation on sin, on the biblical weight of inheritance. Cursed is the ground because of you, Genesis warns, and Hartley Plantation felt that curse in every furrow, every vanished child. Thomas Hartley, Virginia's father, embodied the order of a fallen world. At 47, he was a man of precision, rising at 5 sharp, his boots crunching gravel as he inspected fields under pre-dawn stars. The plantation spanned 300 acres in Henrico County, where the Piedmont's hills kissed the coastal plain, a patchwork of tobacco rows, cotton patches, and cornfields that yielded modestly but steadily. Established in 1784 by Nathaniel Hartley, a Yorktown veteran rewarded with land grants, it was old money worn thin, the main house's federal-style facade peeling like shed skin. Thomas was methodical, almost ritualistic, his life a ledger of routines. Mornings in the fields, afternoons in his study, walls lined with books on agronomy and economics, the air thick with ink and dust. Evenings ended at 9, no exceptions. He believed in documentation as divine mandate, for what is unrecorded is unreal, he'd say, echoing Proverbs' call to wisdom. His 3 ledgers were his trinity. The green one for crops, acres sown, yields reaped, tools mended. The red for household, candles, fabrics, the coarse shoes issued to servants each winter. And the brown, locked in mahogany, its leather cracked like parched earth, for human inventory. Names, ages, sexes, values. Acquisitions noted with clinical detachment, healthy male, approximate 4 years, from Richmond Market. Sales with profit margins, sold to J. Wilkins, $450, for field labor. This brown tome was no secret within the family, it was the plantation's beating heart, as ordinary as sunrise. Thomas could recite any detail, who was born on site, who purchased, who bore the R4 runaway risk, a scarlet letter of suspicion. Yet amid this meticulous accounting, a void persisted. Children always arriving as toddlers, 3 to 5 years old, vanished at 12. No sales, no transfers. Just removed, like a soul stricken from salvation's roll. By 15, Virginia had turned detective, her innocence curdling into obsession. She'd sneak into the study when Thomas rode the fields, the hatpin lockpick a tool of quiet rebellion. The room's silence was oppressive, broken only by the tick of a grandfather clock, measuring time like Judgment Day approaching. Her finger traced columns, arrivals post-Richmond trips, no wagons, no auctions announced. These children got preferential treatment, light duties in gardens or laundry, extra rations of cornbread and molasses, their bodies spared the whip's bite. Most haunting, they were taught to read. In 1831, Nat Turner's uprising had scorched the South with fear, birthing laws against literacy for the enslaved, fines, jail for transgressors. Knowledge is the serpent's fruit, preachers thundered from pulpits, invoking Eden's fall. Yet Thomas defied it, summoning Mrs. Porter, a widow with wire-rimmed spectacles and a voice like rustling pages, twice weekly. In a makeshift schoolroom, a dim outbuilding smelling of chalk and hay, these select children learned letters, numbers, sums. Virginia confronted him once, at breakfast. The table laden with biscuits, preserves glistening like forbidden jewels. Her mother Abed with migraines, the house echoing empty. "Father," she said, voice feigning nonchalance, "why teach them to read? Isn't it against the law?" He folded his newspaper, eyes shifting from amusement to ice. "The law is for fools who mismanage their assets, Virginia. Education adds value, simple economics." "But you don't sell them," she pressed, heart pounding. "Where do they go?" His face hardened, a mask of patriarchal stone. "Not for young ladies to ponder." "Eat?" She ate, but the questions festered like untreated wounds. By spring 1851, Virginia's private investigation was a sacred rite. Her journal, hidden under floorboards, pages yellowed and ink-smeared, chronicled arrivals, traits, disappearances. Patterns emerged like biblical prophecies: children selected young, nurtured, educated, then erased at 12. Never 13. It haunted her embroidery sessions, needles pricking like accusations of complicity. In church, amid hymns of obedience, she'd stare at Thomas's nape, wondering if Cain's mark lurked there. Nights, the carved names shimmered in moonlight, whispering of divine retribution, of sins visited upon children unto the third and fourth generation. What alchemy turned innocence to absence? The careful curation screamed purpose, educated minds fetching premiums in shadows where laws bent. But who bought? Why the veil? Virginia's mind spun webs of dread, human trafficking into deeper hells, perhaps ritualistic horrors echoing Old Testament sacrifices. The plantation felt cursed, its bounty tainted by unspoken evil. Guilt gnawed at her. As daughter of the master, was she not complicit in this modern Pharaoh's plague? In early June, resolve crystallized. She'd shadow Thomas to Richmond, unveil the abyss. June 9th, he announced the trip at breakfast, fork scraping plate like nails on a coffin. Virginia lied to her mother, visiting Catherine Stewart, a stone in her gut, but necessity trumped piety. That night, preparations in secrecy, dark dress, boots, provisions pilfered. Sleep evaded, moonlight crawling like a thief. At 4, she rose, dressed in darkness. Crept stairs, dodging creaks, 3rd from top, 7th from bottom. Out back, past kitchens redolent of ash and bread. Stables, horses nickering softly, soothed by her whispers. Saddled juniper, hands steady now with purpose. Hidden woods bordering the road, birdsong heralding dawn, sky blushing pink. Thomas passed at 6, oblivious. She followed at distance, road dust coating her throat, heat rising. 45 minutes in, deviation, he veered onto a rutted path into woods. Virginia tethered juniper, pursued on foot. Forest dense oaks, pines, sweetgums, canopy dimming light, air cooling, laced with rot. Sounds guided, hooves muffled, tack jingling. A mile on, clearing emerged. A lone structure, weathered barn, mossy roof, no windows, doors front and back. Father's horse tied outside. Virginia circled, heart thundering like apocalyptic drums. Back door ajar. She pressed against wood, splintery and damp, ears straining. Voices. Thomas's and another's, nasal, accusatory. "You're late, Hartley." The word hung like a noose, pregnant with sin's unveiling. What pact brewed in this forsaken temple? Virginia's breath caught, the weight of revelation pressing down, a spiritual storm about to break. Cut to the dense Virginia woodland, sunlight filtering through a canopy of ancient oaks and pines like fractured stained glass in a forgotten cathedral. The air hangs heavy with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, a cloying rot that clings to the skin like unconfessed sin. Shadows stretch long and twisted, pooling around the weathered barn, a monolithic structure of graying timber, its moss-covered roof sagging under the weight of decades, as if burdened by the atrocities it shelters. No birds sing here, only the distant rustle of underbrush and the faint, ominous creak of wood settling, like bones in an unmarked grave. This is no sanctuary, but a profane altar where human lives are commodified, stripped of dignity, and dispatched into oblivion. Virginia Hartley, pressed against the barn's splintered wall, her heart a frantic drumbeat echoing the psalm's cries of lament, strains to overhear the damning exchange within. The voices seep through the cracks like venom, her father's, steady and unyielding as Old Testament law, the stranger's, nasal and sharp, slicing the air with impatience. You're late, Hartley, the man snaps, his tone laced with the irritation of a merchant delayed in unholy commerce. Thomas Hartley responds without apology, his voice a calm facade over turbulent depths. The roads were muddy from yesterday's rain. It slowed my progress. No warmth, no preamble, just the cold calculus of transaction. Virginia's breath catches, her palms slick against the rough wood, nails digging in like thorns of a crown. Then comes the word that chills her marrow. Is the merchandise ready for inspection? Merchandise. Not a child, not a soul knit in the womb as scripture attests, but merchandise, a dehumanizing echo of the auction blocks where bodies are appraised like chattel. Virginia's mind reels. Visions flashing, the biblical slave markets of Egypt, where Joseph's brothers sold him for silver, igniting a chain of divine retribution. Is this her family's curse, a generational sin ripening for harvest? Her father's reply confirms the nightmare. He's prepared according to your specifications. 12 years old as of last month. Healthy, strong, intelligent. He can read at a 6th grade level, write clearly, and calculate figures better than most white children his age. The stranger's approval drips with greed. Good. Good. My buyer in Charleston specifically requested someone educated. You'd be surprised how many prefer them that way now. They're willing to pay premium prices for literacy. A pause, heavy as the silence before thunder, then the revelation that shatters Virginia. They say it's more satisfying when the merchandise understands what's being done. The words hang like a noose, twisting in the humid air. Virginia clamps a hand over her mouth, stifling a gasp that could betray her. Understands what's being done? What profane rites await these children? Rituals of degradation where knowledge heightens the torment, turning education into a tool of deeper damnation. Her thoughts spiral to Job's afflictions, to the innocents slain in Herod's rage, questioning if God's eye truly sees all, or if some shadows evade even divine light. The haggling resumes, voices muffled but clear in their callousness. The price we discussed, Thomas intones, businesslike, as if bartering tobacco bales. $800. Twice what you'd get at public auction. The stranger chuckles, a sound like gravel underfoot, as promised. But then, we're not just buying the merchandise, are we? Hardly. We're buying discretion. No papers, no records, no trail. As far as the world is concerned, this child never existed. Coins clink inside, Judas's 30 pieces multiplied, a betrayal sealed in secrecy. Footsteps approach the back door, heavy and deliberate. Virginia bolts, heart pounding like apocalyptic hoofbeats, weaving through brambles that snag her dress, tearing fabric with a rip that mirrors her fracturing world. She dives behind a massive oak, its bark rough against her cheek, roots clutching the earth like desperate prayers. The door swings open with a groan, spilling dim light into the clearing. The stranger emerges tall and gaunt, clad in a dark coat that absorbs the shadows, his face ferret-like, eyes darting with predatory cunning. He grips the arm of a boy, Samuel, 12 years fresh, his skin glowing with the vitality of youth, eyes wide with confusion rather than fear. Virginia knows him well, from the kitchen gardens where he'd shared stories of hidden streams and secret bird nests, his laughter a rare light in the plantation's gloom. She'd carved his name into her being just yesterday, an instinctive eulogy, sensing the reaper's approach. Samuel stammers, voice cracking, "Mr. Hartley, sir, you said you were taking me to Richmond to." "Quiet, boy," Thomas snaps from within, sharp as a overseer's lash. The stranger steers Samuel to a concealed wagon on the clearing's edge, a boxy contraption of weathered planks, canvas covered to hide its cargo, wheels caked in mud from illicit paths. The boy hesitates at the threshold, glancing back with pleading eyes that pierce Virginia's hiding spot. The man's hand on his shoulder, firm, unyielding, guides him in. The door latch is shut, locked with a key that glints like fool's gold. Samuel's muffled protests fade, swallowed by the wood. The men retreat inside, more clinking, paper rustling, $800 exchanged, a soul's ransom. 10 minutes later, the stranger reappears, mounts the wagon seat, and urges the horses forward, vanishing deeper into the woods along a hidden trail, branches whipping like scourges. Thomas emerges last, locking the front door with a key he tucks under the eaves, a detail Virginia notes like a breadcrumb in a labyrinth of deceit. He mounts his horse and departs, oblivious to the eyes tracking him. Virginia remains huddled, body racked with tremors despite the sweltering heat. Sweat beads on her brow, mingling with tears she can't yet shed. Her stomach roils, bile rising like the bitterness of wormwood in Revelation. The horror is visceral, a weight pressing her chest, evoking David's lament, "My sin is ever before me." But this is her father's sin, staining her by blood. She staggers back to Juniper, burying her face in the mare's mane, inhaling the grounding scent of hay and sweat. No tears come, the abyss is too vast, a spiritual void where faith falters. The ride home is interminable, Juniper's hooves thudding a dirge on the dusty road. Virginia's mind churns like stormy seas, secret sales, no records, buyers craving literacy for satisfaction. Whispers overheard on the plantation flood back, tales of deep south depravities, where educated slaves serve twisted whims of the elite, their knowledge amplifying suffering in private hells. Plantations like dens of iniquity, where Proverbs' warnings against the adulterous path twist into something darker, exploitation veiled in luxury, souls bartered for pleasure. Is this the mark of Cain on her lineage, a curse of prosperity built on innocence' bones? Arriving home, she pleads exhaustion from her fabricated visit, retreating to her room. The beam overhead mocks her 43 names, spectral in afternoon light, each a testament to erased lives. Samuel's fresh carving gleams, a wound in the wood. She envisions him in the wagon, jolting toward Charleston, then beyond to fates unspoken, where understanding breeds deeper despair. 43 souls scattered, enduring unimaginable torments, their cries ascending like smoke to a seemingly indifferent heaven. Virginia confronts her crossroads, feign ignorance, carve and forget, wed as dictated, inherit this tainted Eden? Or rebel, invoking divine justice against her own blood? The choice crystallizes in her soul, a spark of redemption amid the ash. For 3 weeks, she drifts through routines like a ghost, supervising servants under her mother's watchful eye, the house redolent of beeswax and lavender, needlework in the parlor, pricks drawing blood like stigmata, church Sundays, hymns of obedience ringing hollow as she stares at Thomas's bowed head, wondering if hypocrisy chokes him. But inwardly, Samuel's bewildered face haunts her, the stranger's words a serpent's hiss, more satisfying when they understand. Action beckons, inaction is complicity, a sin of omission damned in James's epistle. Authorities? Futile. Sheriff Boone dines monthly, his guffaws echoing her father's jests. Magistrate Winslow owes debts, bound by usury's chains. The minister, salary fed by planters, preaches submission, blind to the wolves in his flock. This is a patriarchy of iron, where enslaved have no voice, and even white daughters wield phantom power echoing Esther's peril, risking all to expose evil. She turns to subtlety, eavesdropping, a silent sentinel. Positioning herself in shade or corner, she gleans fragments. Laundry lines flap like surrender flags as older women converse, been happening since before I was born, one murmurs, pins in mouth. My mama told me old Master Hartley, the grandfather, started it. Lord have mercy. The other shakes her head, voice low, dozens, maybe hundreds over years. He found quiet sales fetched more, no questions, no papers. Some folks want what they want, pay for secrecy. Pure evil, those babies pampered, educated, fed well, then gone. They spot Virginia, silence descends like a shroud. Her hands tremble on her book, pages blurring. That night, defying taboo, she ventures to the quarters after dusk. Moonlight silvers the path, cicadas a choral lament. Cabins huddle like huddled supplicants, smoke curling from chimneys scented with wood and cornmeal. She knocks on Dina's door, a kitchen worker, sturdy and scarred, mother to Marcus, 11 and ticking toward doom. Dina opens, alarm flashing, "Miss Virginia? Something wrong?" Virginia whispers, "I need to talk." About Marcus. Dina's face blanks, stepping out, door sealing secrets. What about him? He turns 12 in March. Jaw tightens, fists clench. Virginia presses, "I know what happens. I followed my father. I saw the barn, the wagon, the sale." Dina's eyes widen, fear raw, "Miss, you can't speak of this." "If he finds out, I want to stop it," Virginia interrupts, words a vow. Silence stretches, dog barking distant, cicadas swelling. "Don't you want to save him?" Dina's voice breaks fierce, "Of course, he's my baby. But wanting ain't doing. You're 17, a woman, nobody listens. Your father'd ship you off, wet or worse. White women disappear too different, but gone. Maybe, Virginia concedes, but I must try. Will you help? Dina weighs, eyes mirroring maternal agony, hope flickering like candle flame. What do you need? Weeks unfold in clandestine whispers, stolen moments in kitchen or garden, Dina unveiling the rot. Your grandfather started in the 20s, she confides one afternoon, kitchen steaming with boiling pots, herbs pungent. Times hard post-revolution, tobacco low, soil weary. Someone whispered of buyers paying premiums for certain merchandise. She averts eyes from the word children. Young ones, raised proper, educated. Started small, profitable. By 29, when your father inherited, it was tradition. Virginia probes, where from? He buys special estate sales elsewhere, auctions in Richmond, Petersburg. The alliance deepens, a fragile bridge across divides, fueled by shared dread and defiant faith. Virginia's journal swells with details, origins, treatments, vanishings. Patterns emerge like prophetic signs, children groomed as offerings, literacy a double-edged sword, sharpening suffering. Spiritual undercurrents pulse, is this Babel's hubris, knowledge cursing the knower? Or a call to emulate Moses, leading from bondage? Guilt coils in Virginia's gut, redemption's fire kindling. But shadows lengthen, Marcus's birthday nears, retribution's hourglass emptying. The kitchen at Hartley Plantation glows with the soft amber of late afternoon sun slanting through small, high windows. Steam rises from iron pots on the hearth, carrying scents of simmering greens, cornbread baking, and the faint metallic tang of lye soap from the wash tubs outside. Dina stands at the long pine table, sleeves rolled to her elbows, kneading dough with rhythmic precision, each press a small act of endurance. Virginia perches on a stool opposite, her posture rigid, hands clasped so tightly her knuckles bleach white. The alliance between them feels fragile as spider silk, yet unbreakable in its shared desperation. Marcus, Dina's son, plays quietly in the yard beyond the open door, his laughter drifting in like a reminder of what's at stake. Dina speaks in hushed fragments, eyes never leaving her work. Your father always looks for the young ones, 3 to 5 years old. Healthy. Bright-eyed, like they got quick minds behind them. He brings them back gentle like, better rations, lighter chores, no heavy field work to break their spirit early. And the learning, Mrs. Porter comin' twice a week, teachin' letters, numbers, sums. It's against every law since Nat Turner, but your father don't bend for laws when coin's on the line. She pauses, flour dusting her dark hands like ash. He's prepperin' them, Miss Virginia. Groomin' them to fetch higher prices from his special buyers. Makes them more desirable. Virginia feels the word settle in her stomach like lead shot. Grooming. The biblical echo is unmistakable, children set apart, educated, fattened for sacrifice, like the lambs of old offered on altars of ambition. Her voice emerges thin, and the buyers? Who are they? Dina's expression hardens into something carved from grief and resignation. Rich men, mostly. Charleston, Savannah, New Orleans, places where old money hides darker appetites. Some claim they want house servants who can read without drawing suspicion in their own states. Others. She hesitates, the dough forgotten under her palms. Others want children for reasons the Bible calls abomination. Things that can't stand daylight. That's why no papers, no trail. Records mean questions. Questions mean sheriffs, courts, scandal. And scandal means ruin for men who think themselves untouchable. Virginia's hands tremble, she grips the table's edge, wood grain biting into her skin like thorns. The ferret-faced man in the woods had named Charleston. The pieces slot together with sickening clarity, a network of middlemen, discreet deliveries, premium payments for literacy that heightens torment rather than liberates. She envisions hidden parlors in grand houses, where educated innocence serves perverse whims, knowledge turning every command into sharper cruelty. Proverbs warns of the path to Sheol, this is that path, paved with gold and silence. She thinks of disruption, of salvation. Every scheme crumbles against reality, the law belongs to planters like Thomas, persuasion is futile against decades of normalized evil, emancipation lies beyond her legal reach. In August, the pattern repeats. Thomas departs unannounced for 3 days, returning with 2 new children, a girl of 4 clutching a rag doll frayed at the seams, and a boy of 3 wailing for a mother already lost to auction or grave. Virginia watches from her window as they are led to the quarters, small figures dwarfed by the vast fields, their cries piercing the humid air like accusations. That night, under a sky bruised purple, resolve hardens into purpose. If she cannot halt the machine directly, she will expose it to drag its horrors into light so fierce no shadow can hide. The opportunity arrives at breakfast days later. Her mother, pale and elegant in mourning black for a distant cousin, mentions a Richmond trip for fabrics and kin. Virginia asks to join, voice steady despite the storm within. Her mother smiles, pleased at this sudden domestic interest. Before departure, evidence must be secured. Virginia waits for the perfect vacuum, father in distant fields overseeing harvest, mother nursing a neighbor's fever. She slips into the study, air thick with pipe tobacco and old paper, the grandfather clock ticking like a heartbeat counting sins. The lock yields easily now, practice has made her deft. The brown ledger opens like a confessional. She copies feverishly into her hidden notebook, names etched in memory, acquisition ages, origins, descriptions, bright expression, quick learner, training notes, and the margin scrawls, buyer initials, cities, sums, PG Charleston 800, Mr. Memphis 1000, JW Savannah 750, HC New Orleans 950. Decades of entries, a ledger of perdition stretching back to her grandfather's era. Her hand cramps, ink smearing, but she presses on, each line a wound inflicted on secrecy. Footsteps in the hall, sudden, heavy. Heart slamming, she slams the drawer, a bang like gunfire, pockets the notebook, stands as the door opens. Thomas enters, surprise flickering across his face, eyes darting to the desk. Virginia. What are you doing in my study? Her mind races, the notebook burns against her thigh. Looking for writing paper. To write Catherine. He studies her long, measuring. The drawer sits slightly askew, she prays he doesn't notice. Sweat prickles her neck. Finally, papers in the parlor secretary. You know that. I forgot. She moves past him, feeling his gaze like hot coals on her back. Skin crawling, she escapes. Sleep evades her that night. She lies rigid, imagining him discovering the disturbance, rifling pages, piecing together her betrayal. But days pass in eerie normalcy, no accusations, no locked doors. Relief wars with dread. Late August, the carriage rattles to Richmond, dust choking the road, heat pressing like judgment. Virginia clutches her bag, notes secreted beneath handkerchiefs and gloves. In the city bustling with carriages, vendors hawking wares, the James River gleaming sullen, she parts from her mother under pretense of bookshop browsing. Instead, she climbs narrow stairs to the Richmond Examiner's offices above a printer's shop. Ink and coffee assault her senses, the air hums with presses below. A young ink-stained clerk admits her. She demands a reporter. Led to Edmund Parker, 50, graying, eyes sharp as a prophet's, he listens as she unspools the tale, the woodland barn, the transaction, Samuel's bewildered face, the ledger copies spread like evidence on his desk. Parker absorbs it silently, pen scratching notes. When she finishes, he leans back. This is grave, Miss Hartley. You accuse your own father. Publication would mean his arrest, your family's ruin. You'd be branded traitor by many, heroine by few. Are you prepared? Yes. He examines the codes, he keeps a key. He must, methodical to a fault. The building, you can locate it? Yes. You witnessed exchange, money, child, all? Yes. Parker rises, paces to the window overlooking Main Street's clamor. I believe you. But belief isn't proof. Accusations alone invite libel suits. We need independent corroboration, a reporter witnessing a transaction, documenting, perhaps photographing. One airtight case, and we publish everything. Dread coils in her gut. That could take months. The next trip is September. Then we wait. Another child vanishes, yes, but rushing destroys us both. The operation continues otherwise. She yields, providing September 12th details, landmarks, distances. Parker vows, confirmation means exposure, charges, perhaps tracing buyers. But he warns, your life ends as you know it. Disowned, ostracized. Certain? The 43 names above her window flash in memory: Samuel's confusion, Marcus's ticking clock, future innocence. Yes. Homeward, tension coils like a spring. Routines become mechanical, needlework, supervision, church, each moment shadowed by suspicion. Does Thomas sense her guilt? Will the reporter arrive? She balances on terror's edge. September 12 dawns blistering, sky a brazen blue. Thomas departs at 6, Virginia watches from her window, pulse roaring. Morning stretches eternal, food tastes ash, focus shatters. Her mother notes pallor, urges rest. Virginia paces her room, a prisoner of anticipation. What unfolds in the woods? Is evidence gathered? Will discovery doom them all? Noon passes. Afternoon drags. At 2, her mother knocks. Virginia feigns headache, solitude. She sits vigil by the window, staring down the drive. Sunset gilds the fields as Thomas returns, brisk dismount, routine stride into the house. Unchanged. No alarm, no pursuit. Virginia's hope gutters. The plan failed. The reporter never came, or was spotted, or the transaction shifted. Failure tastes like bile. That night, sleepless, she confronts the Beams names, now 44 with Samuel's. The carved grooves seem deeper, accusing. Exposure hangs in limbo, evil persists. Yet in the darkness, a fiercer resolve kindles: if this fails, another path must open. Divine justice, she prays, demands more than silence. 3 days crawl by after September 12 like a slow bleed. Virginia lingers in limbo, each sunrise a fresh wound. Her father returns unchanged, brisk at breakfast, methodical in his ledgers, the same squint over candlelit pages. No deputies at the door, no whispers of pursuit. The reporter must have failed, she thinks, the plan dissolved in the wood's dense silence. Hope gutters low, leaving only the carved names above her window to stare back, reproachful in moonlight. She traces them with trembling fingers, the oak grooves worn smooth by years of her touch, each letter a prayer unanswered. Then, on September 15, 1851, the storm breaks. The Richmond Examiner arrives with the Morning Post, bundled in brown paper. Virginia's mother unfolds it at the parlor table, china cup midway to her lips. The headline screams in bold, black type large enough to read from the doorway: prominent Virginia planter accused of operating secret child trading ring, decades of illegal sales exposed. A subhead lists specifics: undocumented transactions, premium prices for educated youths, middlemen in Charleston and New Orleans. Her mother's scream shatters the morning raw animal, tearing from her throat like something long suppressed. The cup crashes to the floor, porcelain splintering across polished wood. Virginia runs from upstairs, heart hammering. She finds her mother frozen, newspaper trembling in white-knuckled hands, face drained to ash. Thomas, the cry echoes through the house. Thomas, come here right now. Thomas appears from his study, already striding fast. He had heard the sound, recognized its terror. He stops dead at the threshold. His eyes lock on the headline. Color drains from his face in a single, visible rush. For an endless moment, the room holds its breath, only the tick of the mantel clock and the distant clatter of servants pausing in their work. Then her mother's gaze shifts, slow, dawning horror, to Virginia. You, she whispers, voice cracking like thin ice. You did this. Someone had to, Virginia answers, soft but unyielding. The words hang between them, final as a door slamming shut. Chaos erupts. Thomas roars, demanding details: how much she told, who she spoke to. Her mother weeps hysterically, clutching the paper like evidence of betrayal, calling Virginia traitor, destroyer, asking how a daughter could murder her own family. Virginia stands amid the storm, voice shaking yet clear: I couldn't let it continue. 43 children vanished. I wouldn't allow a 44th. By afternoon, hooves thunder up the drive. Sheriff Boone arrives with 2 deputies, badges glinting in slanted sun. Virginia watches from the upper landing, half hidden in shadow. Thomas is let out in irons, quiet, rigid, fury etched into every line of his face. As they pass the stairs, he looks up. Their eyes meet. The hatred in his gaze is pure, unfiltered, a father's love curdled into venom. Virginia forces herself to hold it, refusing to flinch. The front door closes behind him with a finality that echoes through the empty house. The trial convenes 6 weeks later in Richmond's crowded courthouse. November chill seeps through high windows, gas lamps flicker over packed benches. Every seat filled, curious gentry, abolitionist observers, reporters scribbling furiously, enslaved people watching from the rear with guarded faces. The spectacle draws crowds daily, a public reckoning of private sin. The prosecution builds brick by brick. Edmund Parker's reporter testifies first, position in the woods on September 12, witnessing the exchange, money counted, child led to wagon, Thomas Hartley's unmistakable silhouette. Daguerreotypes follow, grainy yet damning, blurred figures in transaction, the thin man's ferret face, the boy's small form at the wagon door, the barn itself squatting like an accusation. Virginia takes the stand on day 3, gray dress simple, hands folded to still their tremor. She recounts everything, the first absence, Ruth, the carved beam, the pattern recognized, the pursuit into the woods, the overheard words that turned her blood to ice. Her voice never wavers, though tears threaten when she speaks of Samuel's confusion, Marcus's ticking birthday. Cross-examination is brutal. Defense counsel paints her as hysterical, rebellious, influenced by abolitionist pamphlets and romantic delusions. Why not confront your father directly, he presses. Why betray family to the press? Virginia answers calmly, I did speak to him. He said it was not my concern. And who would listen to whispers from the quarters? Who would investigate a respected planter on rumor alone? Only exposure could force the truth into light. Thomas testifies on day 5, calm, almost arrogant. He admits the transactions but defends them as property rights, enslaved people are assets. I manage them for maximum value, as any prudent owner would. Undocumented sales are my prerogative. He adds, chillingly, they are not children as white children are children. They are property to be improved before disposition. The courtroom erupts, gasps, murmurs, the judge's gavel pounding for order. Virginia, in the gallery, feels nausea rise, her father's words are his own noose. The defense crumbles. Ledgers seized upon arrest lie open as irrefutable proof, decades of removed entries, coded margins totaling thousands. Enslaved witnesses, including Dina, speak reluctantly but truthfully of the pattern. Immunity grants lure some buyers to confess, educated children sought for particular purposes, some for illicit literacy in stricter states, others for exploitation so while the courtroom hushes, euphemisms barely veiling horror. Jury deliberates under 3 hours. Guilty, illegal trading, conspiracy, fraud, tax evasion. 15 years imprisonment, a severe sentence for 1851. The plantation seized for debts in victim. Compensation. Virginia and her mother left destitute. Her mother never forgives. The day after verdict, she packs in silence, departs for her sisters in North Carolina without farewell. One letter arrives weeks later. Virginia has destroyed the family, ruined the name, brought eternal shame. No daughter remains. Early 1852, Virginia travels north to Philadelphia alone, notorious, disowned. The Anti-Slavery Society welcomes her, her story has spread through abolitionist presses. She speaks at meetings, writes articles, becomes the Virginia daughter, the girl who exposed her father's darkness. Some children are traced, a few reunited with kin. Most vanish into slavery's vast machinery, trails cold. Virginia aids where she can, small sums, letters, advocacy. She never marries, never returns south. Her life narrows to quiet work for abolition, then freed people's rights post-war. In 1885, at 51, she publishes her memoir, The 43 Names, a daughter's account of slavery's hidden horrors. It details childhood innocence poisoned, the Beam's silent vigil, investigation, trial, exile. 3 pages list every remembered name, acquired ages, vanishings, fates where known. Most entries blank. I write these names so someone will remember, the introduction declares. They existed. They were human beings. What was done to them was deliberate evil, calculated, profitable, protected by silence. She dies November 3, 1893, of pneumonia in a modest boarding house, surrounded by abolitionist friends. Her will bequeaths papers, journals, copied ledger pages, correspondence to the Pennsylvania Historical Society, preserved evidence of humanity's capacity for cruelty when persons become property. The beam survives. When Hartley House is demolished in 1878, it is salvaged 12 feet of oak, 43 names in careful, childish script, grooves softened by time yet legible. It resides now in the Virginia Historical Society in Richmond, a mute witness under glass. The Woodland building burns in 1852, arson or accident unknown. The clearing reverts to forest, part of a state park. Hikers pass unaware, treading ground once stained by transactions where childhoods were bartered into nightmare. The ledgers, photographs, testimony endure in archives, a narrow window into slavery's particular atrocities, where vulnerability invited exploitation. Virginia's act raises questions that echo still. How many other hidden rings thrived in silence? How many children vanished unrecorded? How many families buried truths too monstrous to face? We cannot know the full tally. History is riddled with erasures. Yet Virginia's choice to see, to count, to carve, to speak mattered. It spared Marcus as Dina's son walked free in Pennsylvania, raised children of his own, purchased with Virginia's meager savings. It reunited a handful of families. It etched horror into the record, refusing forgetfulness. Evil thrives in plain sight when protected by complicity. Virginia could have looked away, as most did. She chose witness. Even knowing it would cost home, family, peace. Bearing witness sometimes is everything. The 43 names endure, not as property, but as souls remembered. Their stories, though brief and broken, demand we look. They demand we refuse silence.